I'm Starborn. Remember, to be a star, you have to shine your own light, follow your own path, and not be afraid of the darkness, because that's when stars shine brightest. If you've been looking at our website, starborninstitute.org, you would already know that the title of tonight's show is Backtracking. And that is because we're actually going to have the third eclipse in this series of 3 eclipses that I call a triple eclipse, and it will occur on Saturday at 19 degrees of Leo. And since it is a solar eclipse, it means that the sun and the moon and Mercury are all tightly conjuncting each other in Leo, and Leo rules leadership, and the sun is the actual ruler of Leo, so it's a very powerful and inspirational eclipse. And solar eclipses always denote new beginnings, and an eclipse takes about 6 months, the effect of it. So there could be a new beginning in your life, at least one, grand and glorious one, sometime in the next 6 months. But before we can get to something new, we've got to backtrack. And the reason why is that there are 6 planets. That is the majority of the planets, because there's only 10 up there. 6 planets are in a grand cross among fixed signs which really don't budge. So I urge you not to get in an argument, because with so many planets in fixed signs, no one is going to win. So save your breath. And if you do feel like arguing with somebody, just sort of step back and do something else, because you're going to waste your time and not win at all, and neither is anybody else. And so these 6 planets in the fixed signs indicate that people are going to stubbornly hang on to their own viewpoint and may not be very eager to change their mind on anything, particularly since the sun, new moon at 19 degrees are conjuncting Mercury, which is retrograde at 15 degrees, and they are all opposing Mars at 0 degrees of Aquarius. These 4 planets are being harshly squared by Jupiter in Scorpio and also by Uranus in Taurus. Scorpio and Taurus are the 2 financial signs. And so the root of a lot of people's problems could be money. There could be financial pressures going on in all of our lives that we more or less can think about responding to. But before we can go forward in something new, which is what a solar eclipse represents, we have to backtrack, because there are also 6 retrograde planets. Once again, the majority of the planets in the heavens are going backward. And so when planets are retrograde, particularly 6 of them, it's always better to go back and tie up loose ends or finish something. Or what I think it means is that we have to backtrack, and we have to look over some of the things that we've done in the past and check them, think about them a little bit. And I think that it's going to take a lot of courage to correct some things. And so one thing that we have to backtrack on and look at is to see if we have made any erroneous judgments about people. In other words, the wrong judgment about somebody. Maybe we should think that over again. Or if you have made any mistakes that have been harmful either to yourself or others, you might want to think about that a little bit, backtrack, and then go ahead and be brave and be courageous, and be sure and say you're sorry. Because if you say you're sorry, that sort of bursts other people's balloons. They can't fight with you when you say you're sorry and you're apologizing. And then the other side of that is you have to vow to correct your mistake. And once you do that and you follow through and you correct a mistake, you really have won the battle. In other words, you've corrected something, and then you are in a position to make something even better than it was before. And that's where that solar eclipse comes in, because you can go forward as soon as you backtrack and figure out what you've done wrong in the past and try to correct that. And once you do that and you are humble and big enough to say you're sorry, and you promise to correct your mistake, then someone else is certainly going to give you a green light and agree, and they're not going to be that mad anymore, because they'll see that you're sincere. And so that embodies the royal quality of going forward and doing the right thing. And that's what that solar eclipse in Leo is all about. So there is a great possibility that this can be a time of winners and losers. And let's hope you're not on the losing side of it. But if people make mistakes, sometimes they can lose out on things. And that's why it's so important to admit what you've done wrong and try to correct it right now. Because there is a possibility sometime in the next 6 months that someone who is rather powerful could certainly be threatened by a demise. In other words, they could fall and they could be replaced, and they could also lose a lot of money because they may have gambled and lost on something. And that could be possible even starting right away. So let's hope that's not you, but that could happen, as there will be winners and losers after this eclipse. And so what are the areas that we could review in our minds? Where should we be backtracking a little bit right now? Well, it would be in the areas where those 6 retrograde planets are. So the first one is Mercury, which is retrograde in Leo. And Leo rules children and sports and entertainment and good times, and it rules leadership and courage. And it rules the whole entertainment industry. And because Mercury is retrograde and it's the planet of the mind, it simply means that you could be having second thoughts about any of the things that Leo rules, because as I said, it rules love affairs as well. And so you may be having second thoughts about a child, or about how you feel about things, or about how you want to spend your time. And these second thoughts are pretty valuable. They're a reason to backtrack and slow down a little bit, because as you're going forward, particularly under this inspirational solar eclipse, you want to make sure that you're making the right decision or the right choice about something. So having second thoughts is a good idea right now. And then Saturn and Pluto are both retrograde in Capricorn, which generally rules the 10th house of career and people's public reputation. And because they're both going backward, that simply means there can be a revision or change in management or policies or even budgets of large corporations and government organizations. And so we could be looking for changes there, and it could involve some sort of downsizing, since both those planets are retrograde. And then Mars is retrograde in Aquarius, but it is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, and since it's retrograding, that means it's immediately next week going to go back into Capricorn, where it is exalted. So it will be joining Saturn and Pluto in Capricorn, and with those 3 planets there starting next week, it simply means that there's definitely going to be some sort of restructuring due to a fall from grace. And that could happen in a lot of different organizations or to different leaders. A definite restructuring due to a fall from grace. And then Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, and Pisces rules things that are hidden behind the scenes, so that simply means that as these planets are going backward on their orbits and more information is coming out, that the discovery of an imposter or a cover-up or a conspiracy will shed a lot of light on the truth that has been hidden from us, and that will be something that we should examine. And since Pisces also can rule things that we're kidding ourselves about, it would be good to backtrack or slow down and ask yourself if you're kidding about something and decide that maybe you might want to change that in the future. And then finally, the 6th planet that is retrograde is one that has just gone retrograde. It's Uranus, which is in that fixed financial sign, Taurus. And because Uranus rules sudden surprising change, it simply means there can be a sudden surprising change in the status and the wealth of a leader due to some sort of breach of conduct or to a loss of reputation. That could certainly occur. And the reason why we need to go back and look things over again and see where we've made some mistakes or some errors in judgment and apologize and really try to correct them is because it is a rather glorious solar eclipse. It's being sorely challenged by these other planets in fixed signs and by the fact that most of the planets are going backwards. But still, the sun is the ruler of Leo. It is conjuncting the other light, the moon, and it is a solar eclipse at 19 degrees, which is a number that reduces to 10, which then reduces to 1, the number of new beginnings. So if you want to get to a new beginning, you're going to have to backtrack and look some other things over that you've done in the past and see if maybe you could correct a few things or maybe mend a few fences, and that would be in order to make something even better. But you have to do the backtracking first. All right, what does this mean to all 12 of the sun signs? Well, Aries, it's wonderful that the solar eclipse and so that's the sun, moon, and Mercury in Leo are all trining your sun. That means there is a possibility that some new start is headed your way, Aries. However, there's got to be some backtracking done first, and that is because Venus has now gone into Libra, and it is opposing your sun sign. Venus is the stronger planet. It rules Libra, and so since it's in opposition to your sun sign, it simply means that there can be somebody else around right now who sort of has the law on their side, and they may win some legal dispute if you're in one right now, or else it can be that they are insisting on fairness and balance, and they're probably going to win their point right now, Aries. So you might lose the goodwill of somebody if you don't agree to that and try to become more fair and balanced yourself. And then Saturn and Pluto are squaring your sun, and that means once again that people who are older or more experienced are going to insist on doing things their way, and so that may be that may put people in a position that's much higher than yours, and so there could be some decision coming that could be challenging to you, and it's not in your control. You can't change it at all. It'll be made at a higher level. And then when Mars goes into Capricorn next week, all 3 planets will be squaring your sun, and some trouble that you had experienced in the spring might come back if you don't decide to sort of backtrack and change a few things. So you can make a new beginning eventually, but you're going to have to change a couple of things first. All right, what does it mean to a Taurus? Well, Taurus, yours is a fixed sign, and Uranus, which is in your sign, has gone retrograde right now, and so the sun, new moon, and Mercury in Leo are squaring it. Jupiter in Scorpio is opposing it. Mars in Aquarius is also squaring it, and Uranus is retrograde. And so you really will have to backtrack right now, Taurus, and you will have to consider going back to something that is much more stable and secure. In other words, if you've been trying new things, or if you've taken a gamble on anything, you surely will have lost. And if you haven't lost yet, you will if you've been gambling, so try not to do that. But there's also the possibility for all of us that we may have made some error in judgment in the past, or you could have made some sort of mistake, and maybe you're seeing the light and you want to apologize for that and not do it again. Well, that would be a good idea, Taurus, because oddly enough, all of the planets by next week that are in Earth signs, which are going to be trining each other, Uranus in your sign is going to be trining Mars, Saturn, and Pluto in Capricorn. That's good for you. But all 4 planets are going to be retrograde. That means you've got to backtrack, Taurus. You've got to return to some sort of relationship or job or some organization that, okay, it might not be exciting, but it's very secure and it's very steady. And it can be with you for a long time. It can go the distance. And that's what you need to return to, especially if you have gambled and lost recently. So try to consider that, Taurus. And there's nothing wrong with saying you're sorry, because we all make mistakes. And once you say you're sorry, then you're getting on the good side of somebody, and that's worth the apology. Okay, what does it mean to a Gemini? Well, Gemini, this is a time when I think you're going to really benefit, and that is because there's a lot of good things going for you right now, Gemini. The major one is that Venus has gone into Libra, the sign that it rules, and it rules peace and partnership, love and marriage, the law and legal contracts, and it rules compromise and reconciliation. And so that very strong planet is trining your sun, Gemini. And also Mars, which is at 0 degrees of Aquarius, is also trining your sun, but it won't be by next week because it'll retrograde and go into Capricorn. So these dominant planets are beneficially trining your sun, and that simply means you could benefit from a legal decision that is either going to come up, or maybe it has been pending, and the outcome will be favorable for you, Gemini, which is good. And also you can get very good legal advice right now. So I think something's going to turn out well for you. And the solar eclipse in Leo on Saturday, along with the moon and Mercury, your own ruler, sextiles your sun. So even if you have to backtrack a little bit, even if you have to make peace with somebody or compromise in some way, that'll work out for you. And also that will prepare you to make a new start that can be even better than something you've done before. So I encourage you to get going, Gemini. The stars are with you. Okay, what does it mean to a Cancer? Well, Cancer, this is a time with that new moon solar eclipse on Saturday, right ahead of your sun sign, that there is something definitely new on the horizon for you. But Mercury, which is conjuncting the sun and the new moon in Leo, is retrograde. And so you may be having second thoughts about a few things right now. And that's all right. It's good for all of us to backtrack and re-examine some of our decisions, or if we've made mistakes in the past, to sort of acknowledge them and apologize for them and then vow not to make them again. Or if you have made an error in judgment, this would be a good time to sort of slow down and correct that, because there is something definitely new on your horizon and it's looking pretty good. The sun and the moon, your own ruler, are right ahead of your sun sign on Saturday during this solar eclipse. It's just that Venus in Libra is squaring your sun, which means that there can be a legal matter that hasn't quite been decided, or else it's in contention in some way, and you would want to be very diplomatic about it right now. In other words, this is a terrible time for anyone to argue with anybody or to take a gamble, so don't do either one of those things. But if you're very, very diplomatic, there is some legal matter that can work out well. It may not be looking like that at the moment, but just be patient. You just wait a little bit. Venus will go into Scorpio and then it'll get better. So you just have to be cautious right now. And then when Saturn, Mars, and Pluto in Capricorn join each other next week and they are opposing your sun sign, there can be a lot of demands made upon you, Cancer, by people in large corporations or government agencies. And so you've got your work cut out for you. But I'm happy to say that if there is something that you've got to backtrack and get done before you can make a future even better, then I would suggest that you do it. And the good news is, with Jupiter trining your sun sign from Scorpio, you'll have the money to do that. So you don't need to worry about the finances. It's just you have to reconsider some of your opinions and actions right now. And then whatever somebody says at a very high level, you'll just have to go along with, because it'll be out of your control. And that's why you should try to be as patient as you can right now. Okay, what does it mean to a Leo? Well, Leo, the solar eclipse on Saturday is in your sun sign, and it's rather grand and glorious by itself, because the sun, your ruler, is conjuncting the moon and Mercury in your sign. But Mercury is retrograde, so you may be having second thoughts about some of your recent choices. Maybe they haven't worked out quite as well as you had hoped, and so you might have to change a few things and backtrack a little bit right now. And if you have to admit a mistake and vow that you'll never do it again, well, that's fine. Just have courage. Your sign rules courage, Leo. So I think you're going to do okay. It's just that Jupiter is squaring your sun sign, so is Uranus, and Mars is opposing it. And that simply means there is still some financial matter that is in contention, or there can be just financial pressure right now on you, Leo. And it doesn't look like that's going away. And so that's why you'll have to backtrack and maybe change some of your plans so that you can make a future new start It just may not be quite on the timetable that you had thought of originally, but still you can make a new start anytime in the next 6 months, and it would be very favorable, as soon as you backtrack and figure out a few things first. Okay, what does it mean to a Virgo? Well, Virgo, this is a time when you are going to have to backtrack. And you would be having second thoughts about something. What could it be about? Well, that solar eclipse is in Leo, right behind your sun sign, and so is your ruler, Mercury, which is retrograde. And that's why you could be having second thoughts about the things that Leo rules. You could be having second thoughts about making a new start. Maybe the timing isn't quite right, or maybe you're not quite ready for that. And you could be having second thoughts about a child or a love affair or sporting events or the entertainment world or some new project that you have in mind. And if I were you, I would slow down and backtrack a little bit, Virgo, because starting next week there will be 4 planets in Earth signs, and they'll all be trining your sun. Nothing wrong with that, except they're all retrograde. And so you do need to go back, and if you change your mind about something, you might be finally on the right track. Because it's something that you had been wanting. If the conditions around it change, then that is a good reason to reconsider right now and not make a commitment until you're really sure about something. Okay, what does it mean to a Libra? Well, Libra, Venus is in your sign. It's your own ruler, and that simply means you're in a peaceful state of mind. And the solar eclipse with the sun and moon and Mercury in Leo all sextile your sun. So eventually there will be a creative new start for you, Libra, but there could be a few hurdles that you have to face, or challenges, or even possible mistakes that you've made in the past that you'd like to apologize for and vow that they'll never happen again. And that is because Saturn and Pluto, and starting next week, Mars will be in Capricorn, all squaring your sun where you have Venus. And since Venus will be squaring Saturn, that is an indication of a possible betrayal. And so you need to be very careful in your career or in dealing with people in large corporations or government agencies, because there will definitely be some restructuring in those organizations, and that might affect you. But by yourself, I think that if only you could do something real creative right now and get your mind off your career problems, I think that you'd be happy with that. And so don't give up on anything right now. Okay, what does it mean to a Scorpio? Well, Scorpio, this is a time when you can't afford to make a move on anything. And the reason why is these 6 planets in fixed signs are all harshly aspecting your sign. That's because the new moon, sun, and Mercury in Leo are squaring your sun, Mars in Aquarius is squaring your sun, and Uranus in Taurus is opposing your sun sign. And so there is the possibility, particularly if you're a leader or somebody pretty high up, that there could be some sort of sudden surprising change in your wealth, and also in your position or your public reputation, which could be somewhat damaged for one reason or another. And so there is the possibility of a surprise that you wouldn't like, a financial one and one that involves your career. So that's why I'm saying you really can't afford to make a move at the moment, Scorpio. Particularly since Neptune is retrograde in Pisces, and it will bring out more and more information about things going on behind the scenes. And if there's any embarrassing information, then you may suffer the consequences of that. So if I were you, I'd be real quiet this week. Venus in Leo is right behind, and Libra is right behind your sun sign, and that means there can be protection behind the scenes. But you could meet a lot of people that could make your life pretty miserable right now, Scorpio. So if I were you, I'd stand back and be real quiet. Okay, what does it mean to a Sagittarian? Well, Sagittarius, this is a time when I think that you benefit greatly from the solar eclipse, because the sun, new moon, and Mercury are all trining your sun sign. There aren't planets in your sign or in Aries. There's nothing fortifying the solar eclipse. And that's why with 6 retrograde planets, we've all got to backtrack and sort of think things over and re-examine where we may have made mistakes in the past, so that we don't make them again, and so that we can make a new start in the future and have it be better than anything we've ever done before. that is something you can do, Sagittarius. And so if you took a sort of a quiet time right now to backtrack and have second thoughts and reconsider things and maybe check everything. And also, I think, Sagittarius, you need to get some sort of further credentialing. In other words, you have to qualify for something, and in order to do that, you may need to take an additional course or get some more training or travel or do something that can help you out right now and help you qualify for a new beginning. Because if that's done, if you have to backtrack in order to do that, that's fine, because that'll make a new beginning even better. So good luck. Okay, what does it mean to a Capricorn? Well, Capricorn, this is a time when I'm not so sure that you're going to make a grand and glorious new start right now, and that is because you could have your mind just on things that are going on in your immediate vicinity, and you could be rethinking things a little bit. And that is because Saturn and Pluto are retrograde in your sign, and so that simply means when Mars joins them next week and Mars is exalted, and all three of those planets will be trining Uranus and Taurus, that you are going to want to sort of redo your budget, I think, Capricorn. And so if you backtracked right now, you may be thinking of how you could sort of cut your costs a little bit. They may have been high recently. And, a Capricorn likes to be frugal. And so if you've been going a little bit overboard, or your expenses have been too high lately, or you've been just plain too busy, you could be very stressed out. And that is a good reason to backtrack and sort of slow down, take it easy, and reconsider your financial position and your career prospects. And that is because you may be very ambitious. The solar eclipse is in Leo, and that's an ambitious sign, but you may decide in favor of getting better health, or making sure that you've just can live within your own budget, and that could be enough for now, Capricorn. So you don't have to overdo anything. That solar eclipse is 150 degrees away from your sun or in conjunct. It may not affect you quite as much as it affects other people. That's why you can afford to slow down and think things over and sort of rebalance yourself a little bit. Okay, what does it mean to an Aquarian? Well, Aquarius, this is a time when I think that, the ball is in someone else's court, and that is because that solar eclipse with the sun, moon, and Mercury all in Leo were opposing your sun sign, where you have Mars at 0 degrees. The good news is that Mars will move out of your sign, and that will give you some sort of relief. Your life is aspected to quiet down, but the ball is in someone else's court who wants to make a new start right now. And I think they're going to do it, Aquarius. And so there can be some sort of financial problem that you're wrestling with, or there could be financial pressure right now, because Jupiter in Scorpio is squaring your sun, and so is Uranus in Taurus. And so I would say that the money isn't enough, or it isn't in the right places right now for you to go forward and do something you want. And yet, you could get some good advice right now, or loving help from people, because Venus in Libra is trining your sun. So I think something is going to work out better if you are agreeable to a compromise, or if you want to listen to people who love you very much, and they do want the right thing for you, Aquarius. And so if you have been sort of at odds with somebody, this is a really good time for you to try to amend things, maybe apologize and make peace, because I think that would work out real well, and you'd be happier too. Okay, what does it mean to a Pisces? Well, Pisces, this is a time when, with Neptune retrograde in your sun sign, when more and more truth is going to come out about something. And that means that with so many planets retrograde, that you certainly will not be able to be kidding yourself about anything, Pisces, which is good for you. It's time for you to focus on you, Pisces. And if you have to backtrack and think where you have made some mistakes in the past, then hey, all of us have made mistakes. All you have to do is sincerely apologize and say that you made an error in judgment and vow to correct the problem. And if you do that, that is going to put you in a place where you can make a much better future for yourself and others. And I'm happy to say, with Jupiter and Scorpio trining your sun, there will be money for that. But you have to backtrack and fix something first, Pisces. And it's either you're kidding yourself, or else you've been kidding somebody else. And now is the time to have second thoughts and to really find out what the truth is and what will make you happy. And if there's been a mistake involved, just admit it. And that way you can go forward and correct it and be even in a better place than you are now. So I wish you the best of luck. All right, thanks for tuning in. Remember, you can see the show, read our blog, and hear our podcast on our website, starborninstitute.org. Bye.